Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and happy Halloween. For those who celebrate it or just, have fun with the season and whatnot. But this is a little Halloween surprise for you. We are reacting to Terrifier 2 today, which just released today, Halloween Day, on Screambox. So let's talk about it. If you remember, in 2020, I reacted to the first Terrifier movie. And at the time I said that it's not bad, but not great either. But the one thing that was undeniable is that David Thornton's performance as Art the Clown is masterful. He is absolutely owning this role. He completely became the character and put so much passion and just fun into it. Like, the way he doesn't say a goddamn thing in the film, but the way he emotes, the faces he makes, the just pure glee he seems to get over, torturing and killing people, is something that you just don't really see in horror. Like, it's such a different take on a horror movie villain that it's actually very interesting and refreshing. Because I think the closest you could probably compare him to in that regard is Freddy Krueger. Specifically the Robert Englund Freddy Krueger. And as much as I am the weirdo who prefers the remake with Jackie Earle Haley, with this comparison, Robert Englund makes more sense. Because Robert Englund's Freddy was more comical and fun and goofy and definitely seemed to enjoy what he did. And that's why he stood out to so many people and made such a big name as one of the biggest villains in all of horror. And Art the Clown is very much the same, except he doesn't speak. He doesn't have any of the witty one-liners and goofy jokes and whatnot. He's just silly. He's quiet, completely silent. Even when, he's supposed to be screaming, not a sound comes out. And it almost kind of makes him scarier. See, that was always my biggest issue with Freddy Krueger, is that I didn't find him scary because he was too funny. And again, I would never put that on Robert Englund. He did an amazing job, and he definitely understood the assignment. My issue is with the assignment. I just feel like it lost its scariness by being too silly. And by having Art the Clown not speak at all, by having him be completely silent, it actually balances the silliness with the scariness, and allowing him to come across as almost otherworldly and unnatural. Again, because even when he gets shot and stabbed and stuff, and is supposed to be screaming, and you can see that that's what he's doing, there is still no sound coming out of him, and that's brilliant. The movie itself had a lot of issues. A lot of the acting was really subpar, but I think that was almost kind of the point of it. I think it was trying to focus more on the blood and the gore and the shock value It was a splatterfest type film where it's like all about that kind of shit. And the acting and the direction, all that take kind of second priority. And that's fine because it did what it was meant to do. It was meant to shock viewers. It was meant to freak people out. Clowns are already a very common fear. And so by utilizing it really well here, and there's been a lot of clowns in horror, but honestly, I don't think I've seen any of them done as well as art. Like, there are people who genuinely consider art a modern day slasher icon, literally ranking him up there with the likes of, the classic horror icons of old. Like, he's kind of become that famous and that popular and gained that kind of status. And I can't argue with that. I've seen the movie a couple more times recently, the first movie, with some reactions. And yeah, I still get it. I still understand what it's going for, and I think it fully succeeds in that. And now we get to this second movie. A movie that apparently had people vomiting and running out of the theater for. A movie that that got such a huge cult following after, like, following its initial release there, that it actually extended its in-theater run. And not only just stayed in theaters longer, but expanded to even more theaters because of it. It started gaining this social media attention for people's reactions to it. And based on the first film, which was pretty disturbing and unsettling with some of its imagery, yeah, I could see that. Like, in the first film, the dude hangs this woman upside down, buck-ass naked, and then saws through her body, vagina first, until he gets to her head, and then he gets stuck, and it's like, what the fuck is going on here? And it's like showing shit and everything, and it's like gruesome as hell, and he again, David Thorne's playing it really well. And apparently from what I've heard from like from like interviews and stuff and from the other cast, apparently David Thorne's actually extremely sweet. Like, on set. Like, he's an extremely sweet, nice, gentle person who is just one of the nicest people you could meet, and I love that. It's like, yeah, of course we understand he's playing a role, it's just a character, but I like it when someone who plays such a sadistically evil character is also just literally the complete opposite. Such a just genuinely heavenly nice person in real life. I also saw like a couple of outtakes and stuff. Like, there's one where he's riding the tricycle and everything, and David Thorne's singing the Queen song, I Wanna Ride My Bicycle. And it's like, oh my god, that's hilarious. But yeah, so I'm actually excited for this. I think that after the success of the first one, this is definitely going to have a bigger budget and is going to be a lot like more thoroughly worked on. I think it's going to be better in overall quality than the first. But I also think that David Thorne's obviously going to be just as good, if not even better, as Art the Clown. I don't know anything about the story or anything else really with this compared to the first one. The first one did have a twist where the only survivor was the big sister who came to, or was it the younger sister? I don't know. The sister who came to rescue one of the who we thought was like gonna be the survivor. And she ended up being the woman at the beginning who had the horrifically scarred face on the talk show and all, and who killed the talk show host who was talking shit about her and being an absolute douchebag. And it's like, so we have a sole survivor. The question remains, is this going to follow those events? Is it going to precede those events? Are we going to find out more about Art the Clown, or is he going to just remain mysterious as always? And what the fuck is up with the fact that he, even though he shot himself in the mouth, he's somehow back from the dead? Is he supernatural? It's not really clear. Nothing was made clear. And that's fine. It's fine if they choose not to make anything like substantially clear in this with his origins or whatnot, but I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see. But also, I do want to mention that this is also a donation reward from Venom0027. This was requested even before the movie was out and everything, obviously, just preemptively. And I'm all for it. I decided to bring this up on Halloween, even though we already have our Halloween special with the movie Halloween Kills. I decided to do an extra movie today as just a little fun Halloween present for y'all. Also because I wanted to see this, and I wanted to see this during October. The fact that it comes out on Halloween just makes it perfect, so yeah. But either way, we're going to get into this, hope for the best, and see what this film has in store. Hopefully it's as good, if not better, than the first. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades black, then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. Excuse me. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, Chris Jericho's cameo in this, I was hoping he would have had a bigger role, but a cameo's fine, too. It was fun. I tried to find the tweet where he like announced it or something. I thought I saw like a picture of him with like David Thorin or something, but I guess I was wrong, or at least I couldn't find it. But either way, I really liked this movie. I would say obviously it's not as shocking to me as the first one, because I saw the first one and I was, I was expecting this kind of stuff with this one. There are a couple kills that that were a little more bothersome to me than others, but overall, I wasn't really that bothered by it. So a couple things of note. Apparently, the clown girl is called the Little Pale Girl. So I guess that's interesting. Nothing was ever explained regarding that. Nothing was ever really explained for a lot of things, to be completely fair. But let's just talk about my thoughts on it in regards to all of that. Well, let's talk about the critical response first. How about that? On Rotten Tomatoes, as I always say, take that with a grain of salt, but Based on 46 reviews, it has an approval rating of 87% with an average rating of 6.7. The consensus reads, Terrifier 2 outdoes the original in every way, which makes it bad news for the squeamish, but a bloody good time for the genre enthusiasts. I inserted gore there for some reason. Got generally favorable reviews on Metacritic. Jeffrey Anderson of Common Sense Media described the characters as memorable, particularly Sienna, due to her character development. Human life starts to matter here, or more here than it did in the first film. Matt Donato of IGN stated that the film has underdeveloped subplots and themes, but noted it as an improvement of the original and highlighted the performance of Lavera, writing that she rules as Sienna in her angel-winged fantasy armor as a final girl fighting for family, facing her demons and screaming bloody war cries in Art's mocking face. And Matthew Jackson of Paste wrote that Lavera, tasked with injecting humanity into the sequel, lives up to this task with pure star power. So, my thoughts on this are that this movie is good, that I enjoyed it, but that they tried to do too much for it. Not in terms of like the blood and gore and everything, the kills, that all was fine. My issue was with the supernatural elements thrown in. Because the supernatural elements were kind of out of nowhere and really didn't ever get in any way explained or even kind of hinted at an explanation for, they just feel like they're tacked on. And it feels completely needless. You could have easily just had it completely unexplained how Art resurrected and just have him doing this all again normally. By throwing in the stuff with the little pale girl, by throwing in the stuff with the supernatural, dreamlike elements and everything, it clutters it. It doesn't need all of that. The supernatural stuff felt out of place, and just, again, because nothing was actually explained, it felt completely random. Like it didn't actually amount to anything. And that's really disappointing, because it could have been a lot better. And according to this, Terrifier 3 is confirmed to be planning, like I had mentioned in the pre-thoughts, along with further installments that will slowly build on Art's background and motives. This, I feel, is needed. Because if you're going to suddenly introduce supernatural elements, there needs to be some kind of, explanation given. Now, not all the time, not in every movie, but in a movie like this, where it's like the first movie is not supernatural at all, it's like you kind of have to explain why you're just suddenly bringing that into this. You take what is normally just like a regular slasher film with some guy dressed as a clown and everything, and you make it something otherworldly. That just seems weird. It could work, but they have to explain why it's happening. I feel like it was unnecessary, because it didn't even amount to anything. We didn't learn anything about how or why it happened. And then at the end, there's a credit scene that just throws in another supernatural twist. Oh, remember Victoria from the first film? She has a very small cameo in this movie in a credit scene. And she gives birth to Art the Clown's decapitated head somehow, which is alive. And it's just like, what? Why? I genuinely don't understand. I genuinely do not get it. I don't get it. And it's like, again, it just felt like it didn't amount to anything either. Like the little pale girl, like what, she could have been taken out of this, and almost nothing else about the film would have changed, because her role in this was so minimal and so needless that the only thing that she had any kind of like usefulness for in this film was the fact that she mimicked Jonathan's voice. That was the only thing she did in this film. And honestly, that wasn't needed. That really wasn't needed. And then apparently there's this subplot, and it kind of goes into what Matt Donato of IGN said, underdeveloped subplots and themes, about this girl's father having gone crazy and had an accidental death when he got drunk and drove away and got into a wreck and everything. But apparently prior to that, like when he was going crazy and getting abusive and stuff, he was also drawing some things in this sketchbook, including Art the Clown, and he gave his daughter a sword that is the only thing that can stop Art the Clown or kill him or whatever. And it's like, what? Because nothing about that was ever explained. Nothing about that ever like came to any kind of fruition, other than at the end the sword is somehow magic and brings Sienna back to life or whatnot. And the supernatural elements in this didn't ruin the film by any means, but it just felt so needless and caused the movie to feel cluttered, and just it took away from it. It didn't ruin it, but it took away from it. That being said, the acting was leagues better in this film compared to the first. I mentioned that during the reaction. Sienna's actress, let me see, I get her full name here. Lauren Lavera. She did great. She was absolutely the star of this, outside of, obviously, David Thorne, who was also just as fantastic as ever. Like, David Thorne as Art was just as good as ever. But yeah, Lauren Laverna as Sienna, she was definitely the star of the film. The others were still kind of corny, still kind of cheesy. Elliot Fulham as Jonathan was a little off. His, like, clearly he probably hadn't been acting for too long and everything. Sarah Voigt as their mother, Barbara, was just a little over the top with her performance and so on. Emily McLean, the actress who played the little pale girl, did a pretty good job herself. Although I don't think the character was needed. Like, the actress did a very good job, kind of even imitating Art the Clown's mannerisms in a way. The friends, Brooke and Allie, their actresses, Kaylee Hyman and Casey Hartnett, were, again, very over the top and just meh. Jeff, Brooke's boyfriend, his actor, Charlie McElveen, he was pretty good. Like, he was believable. But it's like, the acting in general was better. It was. And there was actually more of a story to this. Because in the first one, it's just like, oh, these two girls are out and they end up getting caught up in this shit with Art the Clown, and there's not really a story. It just kind of happens, you know? But in this one, there's a full-fledged story. There's a lot of character development and character work and, like, you know, fleshing them out. It really gives a lot more effort into that. And in some ways that's better, but in some ways that almost kind of takes away from the scarier scenes a little bit by, you know, just making it a little more personal. If that makes any sense. Because in the first one, the fact that it was just like, okay, here's the movie. You have these two dumb young adult women, go. And it's like, you kind of just go from there, and it doesn't explain things. It doesn't really go into much of any detail. You just go, and that's kind of what made it work. Although, like, there wasn't much of anything to it and all, it's kind of what made it work. But again, the story wasn't terrible. It's just the supernatural elements needed to be taken out, in my opinion. If the third film does expand upon that and actually start to explain shit, then okay, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and give it a chance there. But it felt completely tacked on just to have supernatural elements. It didn't feel naturally integrated into the film at all. And again, nothing was really done with it. Like, nothing, they didn't really do anything. So it's like, what's really the point? I don't know. I didn't understand, again, the point of doing that in there. But yeah, it wasn't a bad movie by any means. I would even say it was a good movie. It was a good horror movie. It was a good splatterfest. A lot of great gore effects and whatnot. Again, David Thorne did phenomenal as Art the Clown. But the bigger story did take away a little bit from it, for me personally. And the fact that the supernatural elements just felt thrown in without actually, like, giving effort into it, into integrating it in properly, also took away a little from it. If I were to compare it to the first, I don't know. I would probably say it's a better overall movie, but maybe that I like the first a little more. I don't know. I've only seen it once. This is just my initial impression. Keep that in mind. But for now, that's my thoughts. I would like to hear yours, though. So tell me what you thought of Terrifier 2 in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.